Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to show you how I created this marble maze rigid body simulation in Blender. We'll break it down step by step in two parts. First, we'll model some of the key objects, and then we'll turn them into rigid bodies and set up the full simulation. I'm using Blender 4.5 for this project, but don't worry, most recent versions of Blender should work just fine. Let's jump in. First, select everything in the scene and delete it, so we're starting with a clean file. Now switch to a top view by pressing numpad 7. From here, add a circle curve. Go into edit mode. Select 3 points. Press X, and from the menu, choose segments to delete them. Next, select the top point. Press R and rotate it 45 degrees. Do the same thing with the bottom point. Because we're working in top view, it helps to think of this as 2D. Up and down is the Y-axis, and left and right is the X-axis. Now select everything and scale it on the Y-axis to adjust the shape. Duplicate the curve and move it down on the Y-axis. Right-click, choose Mirror, set it to X Global, and move it slightly to the side. Select the start and end points of the curve and press F to join them. Select the entire curve, duplicate it, move it down, and then join the two curves together. At each end of the curve, extrude a new point to extend the length on both sides. Go to the Data tab, open Geometry, and set the bevel depth to 0.25. Since this curve will be used to cut into another object, it needs to be closed, so make sure Fill Caps is enabled. Go back to Object Mode. Right-click on the curve, set the origin to Geometry. Then press Shift S and choose Cursor to Selected. Start by adding a new cube. Before going into Edit mode, switch the viewport to Wireframe. Now go into Edit mode, scale the cube, but press Shift plus Z so it doesn't scale on the Z-axis. Press numpad 1 to go into front view. Select the top of the cube and move it down a bit. Next, go back to Object Mode and change the viewport shading to Solid. Switch to Top View. And right-click on the curve and convert it to a mesh. Hold Shift and click on the cube so it becomes the active object. Press N to open the Bool Tool panel. Check out my Boolean tutorial if you're not familiar with it. Click Difference. This will cut the curve shape out of the cube. With the cube selected, go into Edit Mode, switch to Face Select, select the front face, and move the 3D cursor to the selected face. Go back to Object Mode, right-click the cube, and set the origin to the 3D cursor. Still in Object Mode, rotate the cube on the X-axis to about 10 degrees so it slopes down slightly. Finally, to help distinguish the object, let's give it a temporary color. Create a new material, scroll down to Viewport Display, and set a color. This color will only show when the viewport shading is set to solid. Now let's make the pipe that the main marble will drop into. Start by creating a new curve path. Rotate it and slope it downward, similar to the cube from earlier. To match the shape of the curve inside the cube, set the depth to 0.25. Next, line up the pipe with the curve in the cube. To make this easier, switch the viewport to wireframe. When moving an object, you can press G and then press the axis key twice to move it in local space instead of global. The pipe also needs a bit of a curve. Go into Edit Mode, select the first point on the curve and move it upward. Go back to Object Mode, create a new material and give the pipe a temporary color so it's easier to see. Now let's make the marble. Add a UV sphere and place it above the opening of the pipe. Go into Edit Mode and scale it down so it fits inside the pipe. Back in object mode, give the marble its own material and set a temporary color. Now I'm going to make a few duplicates of the main marble and place them along the curve that was cut out of the cube. Once the new marbles are in place, select all the newly duplicated ones and press M to move them into a new collection. And that's it for the modeling. We're done here. Next, we'll move on to setting up the rigid body simulation. Select the cube and head over to the Physics tab. Click Rigid Body, set the type to passive. Active objects move in the simulation, while passive objects stay still. Set the shape to mesh. This is useful when you're working with more complex objects. Under surface response, lower the friction to about 0.05. Next, select the pipe. Before adding rigid body settings, we need to convert it to a mesh. Once that's done, give it the same rigid body settings as the cube. Now select the main marble, add a rigid body to it, and just change the shape to sphere. Up at the top, open the filter options and turn on the selection filter. Turn off selection for the main collection. Now select sphere.001, which is the first duplicate marble. Press A. This will select all the other duplicates as well, but sphere.001 will stay as the active object. Make it a rigid body and change the shape to sphere. In the Dynamics section, enable deactivation and also turn on Start Deactivated. This means the marble won't move until it's touched by another moving object. We want the same settings on all the duplicate marbles, so with everything selected, go to Object, then Rigid Body, and choose Copy from Active. Next, head over to the Scene tab and open up Rigid Body World. Set the speed to 1.1 and change both substeps, per frame and solver iterations to 15. These two settings control how accurately the physics is calculated. Now turn off the overlays and play the simulation. These settings work well for me, but you might need to tweak things a bit depending on your scene. Once you're happy, feel free to add your own materials, save the file, and render it out. And that's it for this tutorial on how to make a marble maze physics simulation. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm always happy to help. I'd also love to hear any tips or feedback on how I can make these videos even better. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram and share your projects with me there. And of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Blender tutorials.